Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Big Money Show, brought to you by the team of Big Financial Services. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and I'm joined by the president, Glenn Cummings. We're so glad that you're joining us today. We have a really informative show for you. The title of today's show is Don't Try This at Home. You're going to want to stay with us to learn what we're talking about and why you shouldn't try doing this on your own either. Glenn, my friend, are you ready?
Are you ready? Let's go. I'm so excited to talk about this today because this is something that many people have no idea how it works, right? When you're required to take it. Like this is the thing in my office that I get phone calls about all the time. And at the end of the year is when the phone calls really come in. And, we'll talk about this. I don't want to interrupt, you were right in the mode of sharing some great story. Go ahead. And
sure.
Because I get all excited about this topic.
It is, we both do. And what was interesting is, a lot of times I have friends who ask me what it's like being on the show with you, right? So I was in a conversation recently and I was telling them about what we do and what we talk about. And usually then that leads to people asking me questions about their own financial life. And so in turn, I asked these dear friends of mine, the wife is 65, the husband is 70, and they are already working with another financial advisor at a big corporate firm. But one of the things I mentioned is, well, you're going to really need to start planning ahead for your RMDs. And she looked at me and said, what are those? We've never heard this term. Our advisors never had this conversation with us. What are you talking about? And that is so common. Now, I have heard it said that RMDs stand for really mean and dastardly, or retirement mass destruction. That's not what they stand for. So Glenn, set the record straight. What are these RMDs that we are talking about?
So any pre-tax account, 401k, IRA, 403bs, accounts where you pre-tax your contributions, the accounts grow tax deferred over your lifetime, you reach a ripe old age. It used to be 70 years old. Now it's 73, and they may change that. So they can change
They can change the rules,
They can change the rules. So you got to always be prepared for these rule changes. And they're so complicated, right? If you take it by the 73rd birthday, but you do it before April and you don't have this 50% penalty, you're like, 50% penalty, right? It is very, very confusing. Sit down with a professional that can look over this, because here's the thing. If I have a period of time, right? So say I'm 65 years old and I've got till 73 years old until I'm forced to take required minimum distributions out of my IRA account. A lot of times it averages at the very beginning, maybe 3.5%, 4% of what you have in your IRA.
Right.
So that's fully taxable, and you're forced to take it. Oh, and by the way, as you get older, right? And there's all these little calculators and there's all these little things you can find online and charts. You have to take a higher percentage of it.
Right, because our life expectancy is different every year. So that means the calculation different every year.
Yes, and the IRS wants their money. They've given you this great tax-deferred vehicle. Now they want their money. But here's the main issue that I see in a lot of cases. If people know they have this required minimum coming up, let's get out of those IRAs. Let's get out of them to where when I turn 73, I'm not forced to take a distribution that's taxable, right? I want to take a distribution that's tax-free when I want to take the distribution. Have you guys heard about that type of account? If you haven't heard about it, give us a call. There's certain programs and certain ways that you could save on all these taxes and all these problems you're going to have, but required minimum distributions are very complicated.
Yes, they're very complicated and they're very critical. So explain what our viewers need to fully understand about the impact that they can have on one's retirement nest egg.
It's a huge impact because as we're growing that nest egg, in our minds, we're working hard. We're every paycheck, we're contributing to these IRAs and these 401ks, and we're blessed because our company's matching us. And, I've got all this big account, it's growing, life is good, But if you don't realize that when you're required to take a distribution, even if you don't want to take it, you have to take it.
It's non-negotiable.
It's non-negotiable. And as that distribution could possibly require you to take more out of that account, a lot of times people simply run out of money in those accounts because they're required to take these distributions that continue to go up. Oh, and by the way, if you're married and you pass away and your wife inherits your tax problem and your RMDs, they're going to have to deal with it. Oh, and by the way, when the kids inherit the money, they're also going to have to take it out over a 10-year period in a lot of cases.
Yes.
Right? So there's different rules for spouses inheriting IRAs. There's different rules for the kids. There's different RMD requirements. Very, very complicated. So while you're working, while you're fresh and you're making money and you're saving money, now's a good time to plan. You wouldn't believe how many people, when I sit down with them and they're in their 70s, right? They've never done any of this planning before.
Right.
The first thing they say to me is they say, Glenn, I wish I could have met you 10, 15 years ago.
Yes, because
we could have done all this planning in advance. We could have saved all these tax problems that they could possibly be running into. And we could also help them have more of their own money in their bank account, not in the IRS's bank account.
Correct. Yes. So these RMDs, they do complicate the situation because, again, it's required. You have to take the money out. It's going to be taxed as ordinary income. And you mentioned that penalty. Here's what's interesting. It used to be a 50% penalty that the IRS could slap on top of the taxes you already owe if you didn't take the right amount, you didn't take it from the right account, or you didn't take it in time. Now they've lowered it to 25% thanks to the Secure Act. How nice of them, right, Glenn?
That sounds good to me. That's another change, okay?
But still,
I mean, it'll be 50 tomorrow and...
But still, it's 25%. We don't want people paying any penalty at all, and that's the key, right? This can all be avoided if the proper planning is done.
Yes, and you know, another thing that people don't realize as well is a lot of people think that the RMD is the 59.5 rule penalty. No, it's not that.
No, that's a different penalty.
It's a different penalty. So owning these accounts, man, sit down with a professional that understands and can navigate through what to do and how to do it and how to provide tax-free income and how to provide all these things that you need in retirement. Do it today. Give us a call today. You'll be blown away. And guess what? We never charge a consultation fee, folks. So if you come into my office, a lot of you are watching the show every single week. I've had lots of calls coming in. First thing people say is, well, what's the consultation fee? We never charge a consultation fee. So you can always come in. You can always meet with us. We can do a phone call. We can do a Zoom. You know, we can do an in-office meeting. I'm never going to charge you a consultation fee. We can share ideas with you, give you things to review. It's really a fun job. You can tell I love what I do.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you know, you love working with me too. So,
I do.
You know, we wore blue today. We look great today.
Well, and we love being able to help and serve more folks. So if that's you, if maybe this is completely news to you as it was to my friends, and you're just learning about these RMDs and you don't have a strategic plan in place for how to navigate them successfully, that's just one of many reasons why you should pick up the phone and call to schedule your time to come in and receive your complimentary written financial plan. 888-503-7408 is that number to call. Or if you'd like to connect online, simply scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to walk through the 6 common traps that we see people fall into when they try to do these RMDs on their own. Stay with us to find out what those traps are and how you can avoid making these same costly mistakes. Stay with us.
So you own a 401k, you have an IRA, you have a tax-deferred account, an account where you put in pre-tax dollars, and it grew tax-deferred, and it's grown to quite a bit of money. And then you reach this ripe old age of required minimum distributions, where the government requires you to take out money, a percentage of that account. And as you get older, they require you to take a larger percentage of that account that is 100% fully taxable to you at ordinary income tax rates. I see this all the time. Families are completely devastated, but now they're forced to take those distributions. What do? We look at Roth conversions, folks. Roth conversions give you the opportunity to get out of those tax-deferred IRA accounts. Look at a Roth conversion. Are these easy to do? No. sit down with someone today and figure out, hey, what's my option that's available to get me out of this large taxable account? What are the options available? We can share that with you. Please give our office a call. Imagine not having to face your retirement journey with those same old corporate solutions like everyone else has. In these economic times, you deserve a fresh perspective that includes personalized income planning and some independent thinking from an experienced fiduciary advisor who will focus on you. Call today for your complimentary review.
Welcome back to the Big Money Show. I'm Kristen Oakley here with Glenn Cummings, the president of Big Financial Services. And today we are talking all about RMDs, those required minimum distributions. This is a rule that the IRS has in place for us. Currently, the rule stands age 73, and eventually it'll be age 75. And as we said at the beginning of the show, the rules are always changing. This is why it's so important to stay on top of all this stuff. But now what we want to do is go through the 6 most common traps that we see folks fall into when they try to do these calculations on their own. The reality is they're very complicated and so much can go wrong. So we want to help you avoid making those same mistakes and running into not only the unnecessary taxes that could be paid, but the unnecessary penalty, because the IRS could slap an additional 25% penalty on top of that. So, Glenn, are you ready to dive in?
Let's dive in.
All right.
I'm ready.
You are ready to go.
I'm ready.
All right.
Let's go.
So, first up, trap number 1. The rule states that you are actually allowed for your first RMD. You can defer taking it until April 1st of the year following the year you turn 73. That's what the rule states. And side note, who came up with that rule, right? It's like April Fool's joke.
You know, and that's the one where I get the most phone calls.
Interesting.
Right?
So yeah, let's talk about it.
And I've told people that rule over and over again, and they'll call me a week later. You know, confusing.
Yeah.
All this stuff is confusing.
Because it's not even, it doesn't even line up with tax day.
No.
Right? It's its own date in April.
Yeah.
But why is deferring this first RMD till April 1st of the year following the year you turn 73? Why is that a trap?
You know, I look at it as a trap because a lot of people don't understand it. And just like normal taxes, right? If people don't understand if you sell a home, you know, if you don't 1031 exchange, which means take the profit and buy another property, you could have a 15% long-term capital gains tax.
Right. Yep.
A lot of people don't realize that. You know, a lot of people don't realize there's all these loopholes out there. How many of us have filed our taxes and checkmarked the wrong box? Next thing you know, they're sending us, you owe this much money. And you're like, wait a minute, I don't owe this money.
Right.
There's loopholes all through it. The tax code's this thick.
Yep.
Right? So, and it's very confusing because like you said, it used to be 70, then it's 73, then it's by April of the following year. Very confusing. And if you don't take those distributions, you're going to have a tax penalty. Let's try to get out of these taxable accounts, folks.
Yes.
We need to try to get out of them. What's the second one?
Yeah, well, sure. Well, one thing I want to add about this too, the reason I've seen it be so problematic is because the rule does state that you can wait till April 1st of the year following the year you turn 73, but then that doesn't negate the fact you still have to take a second one out that calendar year to count for that year. So many folks miss that because they think they already did it. And then the other problem is that means you're taking 2 distributions in 1 year. That could severely jack you up into a higher tax bracket.
That is so true. Yeah. Well, you know, I always try to make sure that people take it each year.
Yes.
Right? Before that occurs, right? But you're right. So many people will say, well, wait, Glenn. I'm like, well, you should take it now because you're going to have to take 2 distributions the next year.
Right.
But so many people say, oh, well, I don't have to take it till, next year. Well, you're taking 2 distributions.
Yeah.
That's going to be taxes that you're going to have to pay, and it's going to go against your ordinary income tax, and it could possibly put you in a new tax bracket, make your taxes higher. Yep. Gosh, you're right. That's a big problem.
Yeah, so the bottom line of that one is just because you can doesn't mean that you should, right? Like a lot of things in life.
Exactly.
All right. Well, moving on to trap number 2. failure to adjust your RMDs if you're still working. This is really interesting because this can depend on what kind of account you have, if you're still contributing. So talk about that, because the rules are different for 401ks than they are for IRAs.
Absolutely. So a lot of times people will work up till 70s, 73 years old. So you have to be aware of all the rules, all of the changes that are constantly happening, right? I have a client that was unaware that they could still contribute to their 401k, right? They thought they weren't able to do that any longer because they reached a certain age or an RMD age. It's all confusing. Sit down with us. Let's go through all of these different things. Let's make sure we do the right thing. Make sure that if you're able to still contribute, that you can.
Right. Yep.
And make sure that if you are not required to take your RMD, that you don't take it. Right.
Yep.
So a lot of these things, there are some benefits, in the tax code. I mean, there are benefits of having your money tax deferred over all these years to grow and get bigger. So there are some benefits to 401ks and IRAs, in those earning years to build up a lot of money. But now it's a big tax burden in a lot of cases for people. They're not aware of it. So we'll share with you what your tax liabilities are, what the problems are with these RMDs. Let me get to number 3. This is great stuff.
I know, so much to get into here. We could spend an hour on each one of these, right? Okay, trap number 3, failure to use the account value as of the prior December 31st in the calculation. This is a big one. A lot of folks mess up the calculation when they do it on their own because they use the wrong account value, right?
Yes. Here's another thing people don't realize. When I sit down with people, they may have a 401k with an old job here, an IRA from another account here. They may have 3 or 4 IRAs out there in different accounts, right? And the biggest question people ask me is, well, wait a minute, I didn't take my RMD out of that account or that one. I took it out of the other one. It's all confusing, right? So the key is at the end of each year, right, you're going to be sent a form from your IRA, the custodian where your IRA is, and it's going to say, this is your year-end balance for each individual account. So what I like to do is I like to get all of those tax forms, come up with a total of what you're required to take, and then maybe take it from just one account.
Right, because with IRAs, you can aggregate.
You can aggregate. A lot of people don't realize that. So a lot of cases, if these 2 accounts are growing pretty well, or they've got a guaranteed, roll up, like say they got a guaranteed income future value, say it's an annuity that provides a 7-8% roll up, right? All depends on the contract, but I don't want to pull money from that because I'm getting that guaranteed rate of return to my roll up for the next 10 years for future income. I may pull it from this other account over here. So a lot of people don't know that, right? So these are the kind of things we sit down, we share with people, but all of this is very, very confusing. And to do this on your own is not always a good idea.
No, for sure. And to your point, this leads perfectly into trap number 4, which is failure to take your RMD from the proper account, because the rules for IRAs and workplace retirement plans are different. So for example, with IRAs, as you mentioned, you can aggregate, meaning you could add up the total and you could use the calculation and take what you need from whichever account. But if you have a 401k, a 403b, a TSP, or a 457, you must take an RMD from each one of those accounts separately, which is why it can be so problematic if you've got multiple old 401ks floating around out there, for example, that you've left behind at previous places of employment, right?
That's true. So once again, it makes it very confusing. Because if you've had these old 401ks, 403bs, and you've rolled them over into an IRA, and you have multiple IRA accounts, what we explain is okay. But if you haven't yet, you can run into more problems. So sit down with a professional, right? Look over all this stuff, okay? It's just so confusing.
It is.
And don't do it on your own.
That's the whole point of the show, right? Don't try this at home, because nothing's worse than if you take the right amount, but if you take it from the wrong account, guess what? Wham, you're going to be hit with that additional 25% penalty. So again, we encourage you. We know that this might be new to you. The good news is it's not new to Glenn and the team of Big Financial Services. You don't have to go it alone. They would love to help you successfully navigate through your RMDs and plan ahead so that you might not even have to deal with them. For example, if you convert some money over to a Roth, which we'll talk about when we come back, So again, the number to call to schedule your time to come in and receive your complimentary written financial plan is 888-503-7408, or you're welcome to scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. We've made it through the first 4 of the 6 common traps. Stay with us to find out what the last 2 are and some more solutions for you right after this.
I used to sell vacuum cleaners door to door, and my brother-in-law said, Glenn, you can't keep doing that. You need to look at something long-term. I was only 21 years old back then and started working with a life insurance company called MetLife, and really learned how important that type of job was, working with people, working with retirees, seeing people unfortunately lose their lives, doing death claims. Never really knew about it, honestly. I was too young at the time, and all I knew is I was going to hopefully work for a company that was a big life insurance company. I really didn't understand a lot of those things, but once I actually started working there and I started seeing what the company's all about and all the things it does to help families, it really was something that was really special. My first death claim was a mascot of a pep rally, and he was the principal of a school, and unfortunately he passed away. I was the one that did the death claim, 21 years old. And when his wife came in and we sat down, I could just feel the devastation, not only for her, but for me. And to be that person that's sitting there to do all of this paperwork for her, relieve all the stress and the anxiety she was dealing with at the time, and to say, hey, you know what? Your husband bought this policy for you and for your family and for your kids. And to deliver that death claim check was a very powerful thing. And I realized at that moment, this is something that really can impact families, and been in the business and loved it ever since.
Welcome back to the Big Money Show, where today Glenn and I are discussing the whole concept of why you don't want to take on your RMDs, those required minimum distributions, on your own. We're calling the show Don't Try This at Home. And as we've already established, there's so many ways it can go wrong. The calculation is horribly confusing and complicated, and we've seen people make mistakes. That's why we wanted to talk about those common traps, because we don't want our viewers to fall into making them. And really, at the end of the day, this is why they need to connect with you. But let's keep going through our list here. We've covered the first 4. Trap number 5 is failure to calculate your life expectancy annually. We touched on this, but basically the calculation doesn't stay the same because why?
Well, because the older you get, right? And this is all just my personal opinion of them trying to get their money back out of you, right?
The government, meaning,
yes. The government, right? The older that we get, the closer we are to death, the more they're going to have a higher percentage they're going to want you to take.
Exactly.
Right?
So the calculation changes every year, not just on the account value, but on your age.
On your age and the account value. And a lot of times it's not too difficult, though, to kind of figure it out, because I sit in my office with you, pull up a big screen. We pull up the chart directly from the IRS website, and we do some calculations right there. But it's still so confusing for clients that they don't know how to do it. They don't know where to go to find this information.
Right. Or I've heard horror stories of folks who've tried to do it on their own. They accidentally click the wrong button online and end up liquidating the whole account. That's happened too, and that can create all sorts of mess. So anyway. Trap number 6. Are you ready for our final one here that we're going to cover? Failure to handle RMDs from inherited IRAs properly. This is really important to know, because this is another area where the rules have changed recently. So talk about that.
So if I have a spouse that passes away and I can inherit your IRA as my own, those are rules and regulations there. But if my spouse doesn't inherit it, right, and or my children are the inheritance of that IRA, in a lot of cases now, there used to be something called a stretch provision, which allowed me to stretch those distributions for a later period of time to allow that account to get larger and not be such a big tax burden on my kids. Guess what? That stretch provision's gone, right? So now when my kids inherit these big IRAs, they're forced to liquidate the entire IRA balances over a 10-year period.
Within 10 years.
At possibly the highest tax rates, because most likely they're going to be in their higher wage earning years.
Right, which could then bump them up into an even higher tax bracket.
That is the point.
Right.
The point is, folks, the IRS is going to get their money.
Mm-hmm.
Look into our tax calculator. It's one of the most popular things we've had going right now.
Mm-hmm.
People are just blown away by this tax calculator. I know, Kristen, you'll share it with everyone.
Yes.
We've got a couple minutes left for everybody to get this free calculator, please.
Absolutely, yes. We'd love for you to visit the site so you can begin to mitigate this problem in your own life. So again, the site to visit is bigtaxbill.com, or you can scan that QR code. It will take you to a landing page, ask you for some simple information, and then no strings attached. You're going to receive a 4-page report emailed to you. We're going to show you a screenshot here of 1 page of that report. Basically, what it's going to do is break down the numbers for you, showing you there on the left-hand side what the government's tax plan for you is if you do nothing versus how much less you could pay in tax there on the right-hand side if you enact some of these tax saving strategies. And I know we're coming up to the end of today's show, Glenn, but one of the biggest strategies you're able to help folks think through is doing something that's called a Roth conversion.
Yes.
And the beautiful part is you're moving that money from being taxed always to taxed never again.
Yes.
But when your money's in a Roth account, you're not even subjected to these required minimum distributions.
That is such a blessing. Any client that I visit with that comes into the office and they said, well, we've got this big chunk of money over here in a Roth and just a small amount in the IRA.
Mm-hmm.
I applaud them because they've done the right strategy along the way. And there's some good advisors out there that will share these types of tools with clients. But in a lot of cases, either you may not even have an advisor. You may be afraid to meet with an advisor. You may think, I don't have enough money to meet with this guy, Glenn, or call us. Let's have a phone call. Let's have a conversation. We never charge a consultation fee. We're here to help you. We're here to serve you. We're so blessed to be able to do so.
Wonderful. Well, Glenn, this has been informative. And I know, again, we just say, don't try this at home, right? There's help. You're available.
We're available right here in the Tampa Bay area. Come visit us.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And to our viewers at home, we hope that you have found this to be helpful and valuable. That's how it's intended each and every week. In addition to visiting bigtaxbill.com, you're welcome to just pick up your phone, call that number on the bottom of your screen, and schedule your time to come in and receive your very own complimentary written financial plan from Glenn and the team of Big Financial Services. That number to call is 888-503-7408. Or if you'd like to connect online, we've got you covered. Simply take your smartphone, you can click that QR code. It will take you to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary meeting that way as well. Thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to being back with you next time here on The Big Money Show. We'll see you next week.